This is going to be a good one. Our first contenders showing Trick Room. A lot of hype behind this team because just there wasn't big expectations for Trick Room when it came to contenders. They actually had a much higher placing than a lot of the community expected. They went all the way to the finals of the Pro-Am and lost 4-2 to the Saints. And a lot of Trick Room's identity is around Infected's Hammond.
Yeah, Infected's Hammond is absolutely fantastic. And Lemon, I'm pretty sure that Shock are going to be putting a lot of effort into this particular matchup to not lose to the up-and-coming Dark Horse Contenders team, because, you know what, I'm sure that all of the fans of San Francisco Shock on Twitter would have some very reasonable and measured responses to that set of events if it were to occur. I particularly am looking forward to seeing Pummy here. We're going over to Antarctica, and that means we're likely going to be seeing Pummy the GOAT on Bastion. You all saw his picture, you saw him looking down at everyone who was staring upon his visage, and that's because Pummy #1, baby. And honestly, Proper might be a fraud in this lobby. I'm sorry, I can't finish it. Proper showed off a little bit of the Bastion earlier.
Oh, they did him dirty with the Contenders Trick Room at the top? Oh, damn. Also, we'll start on labs. We'll see how tricky they will be, but we're starting off on labs, which is popular for Brawl especially. It's a very narrow section of the map, not a ton of cover. Everyone's doing the team pose. You gotta take a screenshot for the socials in your first kind of semi-owl match. But yeah, Brawl versus sort of Brawl from the Shock.
Yeah, more of a spammy brawl from the Shock, though they do still have Velucio to make sure that they can maneuver Max around. The question is, will Boats be able to go up against Heesang and check him here? Because Boats' headshots are what's going to keep Heesang honest on these flanks. If not, Heesang's going to get easy access to Hanbei, and it's going to be over. So there's a huge amount of weight on this young player's shoulders.
I know that even the Contenders casters were telling me that Trick Room's Brawl is also equally as strong, and just the flexibility to be able to play ball is sort of unheard of as one of the most difficult tanks to master. It's a quick tap. Surprised that Shock didn't want to have maybe Vindime or even Heesang contest. The whole point of having mobile characters is to contest and be around. But Trick Room gets to disengage from this. They are actually quite low. Shield's starting to break too as Infected wants to keep his toes. Them grippers on the point did not flip it over. Got real close for the Shock to do so, as they also have to keep an eye on when this damn Bastion of Pummy is going to go into tank configuration. That is the major cooldown, as that's a major ultimate from Heesang. Pulse Bomb's Magic Mate Ball before a Sound Beer could be generated. As the Ant Matrix in the middle of the points, not going to help Hanbei and the friends of Trick Room too much, but 40% is a good start.
And this is what we talked about when it comes to the key to victory here for San Francisco Shock. Heesang needs to remain uncontested or outmaneuver Boat and get access to that backline. Magic Mate Ball felt the pain of what a Heesang tier tracer in the backline feels like. And now San Francisco Shock can actually do a lot to control the positioning of Trick Room using the Dragon Strike, which, while it's not deadly in its own right, being able to control the speed of engagements and disengagements is a major power play against a roster that wants to stack as tightly as Trick Room.
Trick Room just running it down. They had the initial Maywall behind Max, and he's using his power block really well, and now he has the Annihilation! It gets his revenge on Trick Room! As the Sound Beer, I don't even know if it came out either way, they all got disintegrated by Max.
Oh yeah, Max and Proper together doing a huge amount of damage through their ultimates, and now this has cycled over to Finn having access to the Nano Boost. And I wouldn't even mind seeing the Nano Boost move over to Heesang here if need be to make a deep dive if San Francisco Shock start to lose a huge amount of positioning. Usually you might be using it though as more of an anti-damage measure to make sure that Max can get healed up to full if he ends up in a more precarious position without Nemesis form.
Oh, Pulse, hello, and goodbye. Magic Mate Ball doing the respawn simulator. Man, Shock just tearing them apart before Trick Room could even think twice about it. Now it's 70% plus for Shock, coming down to last fight for Labs.
Real good day for Heesang. 2 Pulse Bombs, 2 Lucio kills. And once you lose access to that speed boost, Infected is a sitting duck because Max can run rings around him with a Nemesis form speed. Still Infected. With the slam here, it's going to be a duel of that. Oh, 5-man anti. That's bloody brutal, Lemon.
Just to distract them a little bit. As Infected just got slept as he was jumping down, and opens up vulnerabilities into Trick Room. Headshot from Proper to pick off Hanbei. He's got a nano on a proper. Sounder from Vindime. This was last fight in Trick Room. They couldn't even fight on their terms. They didn't even see another person before they lost their main support. 100 to 40 is a huge start for Shock and a big turnaround after how Florida's match went.
Oh yeah, big turnarounds. Shock decided, okay, no more games. You've had the loss out of us, and that's all you're going to get. He's saying, I've got to sing the praises again. Like, that comp, it falls apart if Heesang pops off, and Heesang popped off. The lack of ability to really duel Heesang was super important, and it also meant that like you were relying on Mateball to be the one to duel the Tracer, because no one else is going to be looking around to deal with that. You need a huge amount of boats focused to be on Max to try and constrain him. You're usually going to have Pummy looking at the tank as well. So Mateball's ability to try and take those duels at the moment seems a little bit lacking, dying to a lot of pulse bombs.
Brawl returns for that high ground control, and Pummy, who usually likes to run a lot of Cassidy, sometimes on the Bastion, rolls up with the tank configuration, doesn't even slow down, even through the anti-grenade of Finn. Now it's time for the clapback. Max, in his form, almost gets charged down by Infected, who went way too deep, really thought he was going to get that pin, somehow survives. We'll get Hanbei just that much closer to the Ant Matrix. Most definitely going to be the first ultimate that you see, as Shock overtake the high ground, see if they can put Proper in a good position, as Trick Room gave up that bridge to go for the capture. And that's the presence of the point I was hoping to see from the Shock, having Heesang and Vindime just deny the cap. Maywall behind Max as he gets torn apart by the Bastion tank configuration. And Finn finds himself very low, and that'll be the fight, and Trick Room will cap first.
Proper, not done fighting just yet though. There's still enough healing from Vindame to take these sporadic. Look at the surrounds! Infected can't shield everything himself. And so San Francisco Shock, this is literally just mechanics and ego. And you know what? Mechanics and ego are enough when you're the MVP, the Rookie of the Year, and the Roll Star, baby. San Francisco Shock say we refuse to yield. And now contenders Trick Room, they have to try and attack into a Dragon Strike through these narrow corridors. And we all know how painful that can be.
Tons of ultimates and options for Trick Room. At least starting with the Ant Matrix is just tough because Shock are just playing at so many different parts of the map that you can't really funnel this damage in one area. As Infected, just going to be in the middle of the map and trying to bait people towards himself, so the Ant Matrix does funnel the damage towards somebody. Tank configuration and the Sound Bear to save Pummy as Trick Room fire right back. I think it's a 3v3. Trick Room also managed to flip the point. They'll return to the top of the bridge where they feel the safest. It'll be up to Shock to run for the hills, especially with Pummy in tank form.
Yeah, Pummy using the schmooze there to try and get an angle onto Finn, and we've seen before that Finn suffers when he's down on the slow ground. It makes Max so much easier to kill with the wall because Finn can't shoot over it. Finn, you in particular are going to take some pain from this, but excellent evasion and a nice bit of wall peel there for some reason from Bo.
Infected looking for Shatter. The Blizzard drop from Boat. And then they're just pouring all these resources into Nano Max, because now he has Annihilation. The best way, you either run or you fight for your life, and at least you can block some of the damage. Infected opted for that. Protects the rest of his team, and Trick Room managed to also keep the point this entire time and deny the flip. 70%, and they just let Heesang do it for free. Now we do this all over again.
Why? Oh, Heesang still has recall as well. Might have to use it here, and now Heesang's going to be in a dangerous position. But this is a sad time from Trick Room here.
Pummy seems to be safe for now. Yeah, as long as Shock stay on this point, it's going to generate. Trying to push Max off. We'll get the flip there for Trick Room. Ant Matrix, tank configuration. Pummy finds Proper over at that angle, but couldn't get the finishing blow. And Max is commanding so much attention from Trick Room, and they just can't seem to kill anybody.
Heesang once again trolling on the objective, and Infected's going to have to walk forward to try and deal with this. In comes the Dragon Strike. It splits Infected away.
Infected took the pulse bomb and still lives to tell the tale. He's got no armor though, and we just become so much squishier without it, and without that shield. Trick Room just get picked off, and Shock will be able to get back on the point. Having to win probably 2 fights though to take the map, it's going to be tough.
Trick Room are having a lot of trouble actually finishing their fights. They can't finish their dinner. They need to scarf down those vegetables before they can have the metaphorical dessert of accessing high ground. Heesang at the back. Good trigger discipline thus far, but I think that Magic Maple has an idea. And this is what we need from Maple, to check the Tracer and stop her access the backline.
Pummy's looking for Finn. Oh, getting him low to like 1 HP. Must have found a pack. And there's a Blizzard right on top of Max, who's got nanoed again. Trick Room know he's the problem, and the problem has been removed from the equation. Trick Room 5 versus 3, looking to force round 3. And Heesang's not alive to contest. It has to be up to the supports or Proper of the Shock. As Proper's been trying to find these picks into the backline. It isn't successful quite yet. Will be forced to drop soon. And not much else to say about the Shock on this round. We'll be going into round 3. Once Trick Room deal with this annihilation from Max, but he got pinned immediately and shattered. Dealt with very quickly.
Wow, some great target priority there from Trick Room. They seem to have a good idea on sub-level in particular of how to isolate and really punish the Ramatra. And we had a conversation with Zoe on the desk, like, why is Max in? And evidently, we seem to be continuing to delineate between the tanks who like to play Ram and the tanks who like to play the Reinhardt. And Max, being classically an off-tank, is someone you'd expect to be good at this. One of the things that's very good about Reinhardt that you can do to try and shut down the Annihilation is actually to use the Slam to stick the Ramatra in one place, and then use your shield to block off the Annihilation from any potential targets that it might touch, and then you can instantly end it in about 3 seconds, which is just a little bit longer than the stun lasts.
Now the brawl here of Trick Room is going to be even better for this round. Extremely strong brawl map with all types of areas. Perfect for a Maywall isolation. Speaking of which, Heesang pops one right behind Infected. Doesn't seem to have generated much as Trick Room set up on the point. Remember, they can kind of cross on either side of the central pillar to catch Shock off guard, mainly access that backline of Finn or Vindime if they wish. As Trick Room bring up that first main wall just to protect themselves from Max. Trick Room will get the first capture. Max will present himself, and they've isolated Infected, who's gotten dangerously low, and I guess doesn't have much of a shield. A good immortality from Hanbei saves him. Hanbei so close to the Amp Matrix, and Infected wants to play so aggressively, but he's taking so much damage and charges into his own death. And Shock isolated him perfectly with the main wall by Heesang, and Shock finish off what they started.
Yeah, a bit of a miscom there. Ideally, Infected would have just been standing in front of the Amplification Matrix, getting the double healing from Hanbei, but instead goes a touch too aggressive, maybe seeing an opening in the Shock lines that was potentially exploitable. However, now that Heesang's moved away from a Tracer onto a Mei, we're seeing what I wanted to see from London Spitfire, which was more effort to try and control the opposing main tank in conjunction with the Hunter to try and control the off angles.
Amp Matrix up first, and Trick Room just walked past it, and the Dragon Strike right through them too. As Bo laid down the Blizzard, it just came a bit late. Shock are only down by 1. This is still a winnable fight, but the rest of Trick Room just run over these players of Shock that tried to contest the point more, and Trick Room will take a lead.
Sometimes strategically it just ain't that deep, bro. You just gotta hit the Grug Rush. Just have 5 people, amp up the speed, press W, catch San Francisco Shock off guard. The scouting there probably wasn't good enough. It meant that Finn got out-rotated real quick and caught out. Now, though, Heesang has great means of trying to control Infected. Maple and Hanbei are going to have to rotate the sound barrier and the MO.
The Shatter got the ghosts. Nobody affected by the Shock. They throw the Blizzard right down as Infected was still trying to observe what he hit. And all the dominoes fall behind Trick Room. We're just depending on Infected there at that moment and not able to get the Amp Matrix in time to initiate the fight with that. So Shock still have to hustle through to match the score.
Yeah, unfortunately there, a little bit of a goofy throw wall from Boat. Actually stuck Infected up into the ceiling and disabled the Immortality field by placing a wall on top of it. I think they wanted to peel for Infected instead and wall them away from the enemy, but sometimes that depth of field just doesn't work out as you'd expect. Pummy can open this up with maybe some pressure onto Finn.
Yeah, just gotta ignore that Ramatra shield as much as possible, and they're getting good trickle damage onto a lot of players with a shock, but now the real problem is present. It's Max and Annihilation, plus the Sound Bear manages to get 2 kills. Now a third before he falls. And Shock just have to clean up this fight. Heesang wins against Boat. And that'll be all she wrote for Trick Room in this fight. Magic Mage Ball just the stagger of a lifetime there, and Shock have 1 fight left to go to take the map.
I'm not sure if I see that as Shock taking this less seriously or more seriously, that they're willing to stagger a Lucio to that degree. Now only 1 fight remains for Trick Room to try and grab themselves this map from our runner-ups of the last year, and Proper can lock down their entrances with the Dragon Strike. That needs to be out-rotated.
The tank configuration, or the Bastion ultimate, try and catch anyone, mainly Finn. It's a blizzard from Heesang just is making it so difficult for Trick Room to keep contesting. It's overtime for the Shock as Trick Room try to take angles around to see if they can get any picks, but it's so difficult. Shock's positioning has been so intelligent to use cover, especially while the Bastion is going crazy. And Shock finish off the fight. They only lose Vin Diamond, almost flawless. Last fight there, they'll flip it over. Magic Maple just respawn. I'm not expecting any touches to be coming in. The rollout's looking clean though, but not clean enough. A Shock will take map number 1.
Gonna need more than clean rollouts to take out San Francisco Shock, that much is for certain. And you know what, I'm kind of impressed with Heesang being able to bring out the Mei with pretty good efficacy overall. Like, Mei is very much what you'd call like a specialist hero, very hard to just pick up and randomly grab. And with Heesang playing as much Tracer as they did on that map, I thought, okay, maybe they're just gonna play Tracer for the Octangles on all of these, and we're not gonna really see much of a concerted effort to try and control the enemy main tank using the Mei. But being able to pick that up gives a huge amount of tactical depth to how Max is going to be able to take those duels against Reinhardt, because we don't know if like Junbin's going to be like the go-to Reinhardt, if we're going to have, when we look to brawl maps, Max come in instead and play the Ramatra. So this is a good feather to have in the San Francisco Shock cap.
Yeah, I think Pummy would look better on the Cassidy. I think just Bastion in general is just such a noob-friendly DPS. Although we did see Proper play it, you saw just how easy it is to counter. Once Bastion is in that tank configuration, either use the Ramatra shield, a Mei wall, anything to block those seconds of damage, and then you engage afterwards. And it felt like just Pummy wasn't able to get any of the picks that they were looking for to start the fight on their terms. Do we have some highlights to see?
I do believe that we have some highlights to look at, and well, praise be to Max, the Ramatra, who continues to provide us with evidence for our hypothesis. I don't know if I'm ready to say whether Rhine or Ramatra is better, and probably won't be ready even at the end of the entire 3 weeks of Pro-Am, but Max certainly does know his way around this, and honestly, I think we could consider that the Bastion might have a limited lifespan at this level of competition. It feels like a little bit of a noob check, and honestly, Shock are usually going to pass those noob checks. It does mean that you're a very mono-directional comp. You are very much all attacking from the same direction. You get the Grug charge in, but if that can be successfully rebuffed by a team that's planning a little bit more intelligently, then usually you're going to get counterpunched pretty hard.
Yeah, and I was very surprised to see even on Icebreaker at the end just how much the Brawl didn't really do much for Trick Room, and they look like really solid on sub-level that second round that they had won because they were just chasing people around. It felt like Shock were never comfortable. Then you had kind of some flip-flop of the objective, but either way, this is a 1-2, and Shock are ahead in the series. After this break, we'll find out if Trick Room still got some fight left in them. boost ready, and Shock looking pretty solid. Back in the driver's seat after a lapse in judgment against the Florida Mayhem. Kind of an unexpected loss there. But Trick Room deciding to bring us to Hollywood. And we were hyping up Infected's Hammond, but all we've seen is Brawl so far. So I wonder if this will be the map that this works out on.
Yeah, maybe we do see some different looks on Hollywood. It's been so long, it feels like, since we've seen Hollywood in a true competitive setting. I think in the Pro-Am qualifiers, barely anyone picked Hollywood. It was basically Kings Row all the way down for picks, and the occasional Blizzard World, Hollywood was very rarely the choice made by any team. So at the moment, it's anyone's meta. Maybe you try and play a little bit of Winston here. Maybe you try and play a little bit of the Wrecking Ball just to access those high grounds and try and destabilize the enemy team. It's going to be Shock who are attacking first here, so we'll have a look at what the plan is for Trick Room. Given that they chose this this map, we can assume that they have something that's pretty well practiced cooked up here.
This feels like ages since I've seen Hollywood. But at least we know one thing for sure, it's the Infected Hammond. And Ash has been always good at using the Dynamite utility on these high grounds. And then the Boat Tracer, I think, had some struggles in the Pro-Am qualifiers, but he is just that flex player, and Pummy and Boat have a very similar hero pools, where Pummy kind of gets his preference as the carry of this team, what he wants to do. Then you have this hyper poke backline of Hanbei and Magic Mateball and Bap and Zen. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, talking hyper poke, let's think about how San Francisco Shock can win this matchup potentially. And the real key, I believe, is going to be, it's a pathing check, honestly. Trying to make sure that you can actually get onto a point or get onto a target without losing too much HP to Hanbei and Mateball, because they're going to be absolutely spamming away at whatever comes their way. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Max swap here, maybe over something like a Diva or a Wrecking Ball. We know that Junbin is a much better Wrecking Ball than Max. What's for choice here, my friend? Oh, for Winston. Okay, so maybe not the ideal hero for Max's pool, but it does make sense in this case, because what you're trying to do is get onto a target before you lose your HP. For Trick Room, how they win this is they make sure that Max, Heesang, and Proper cannot get on top of a squishy target with full HP and all their resources. Take your time, says Mateball in chat.
Love to see that. Thanks, production, for showing that. Yeah, the Shock. I really like Diva, just if you have any Tracer Nuisance, just having so much mobility to come back, try and matrix the pulse, protect your team as much as possible, while also being able to be an initiator. It's just that Diva's less popular than usual just because she can't hold space the way that Winston can with how strong his bubble is. Max is doing a great job of pushing forward, almost too deep. Requires the Suzu from Finn as they continue to farm. They've guaranteed a few kills, needing to sacrifice the mech in order to do so. And Shock weren't even on the point to get a first tick going for all of those efforts.
Somehow still, this is anyone's game. Proper on the Tracer. Still going to be difficult to deal with, and there's the target focus from the O2 Blast duo. Vindane with a double and the killing blows as well should grant San Francisco Shock access to the first point and the second area of the map. The question is now, how do Trick Room try and play around the high ground? Hanbei's going to have to swap away from the Zen here to provide a little bit more direct healing to Infected on the ball, given that the access to how health packs will be constrained. But oh no, the Goat's been caught, and he has to TP out.
Now Shock can get the cart started, and trying to get to this high ground is going to be the next condition of this fight, unless Trick Room want to initiate first. There's a pile drive of Infected, gets hacked up by Heesang, and that's where just Proper and Heesang are going to be more focused on ignoring Infected or firing him up, but mostly maybe going after everyone else. There is the mines from Infected just to hold this real estate, and an EMP from Heesang to get rid of them, and then to fight afterwards. But Shock lose their DPS as they weren't sure whether to fight through the mines or not. And then Shock just fall, and Trick Room get to move forward. Or hold.
You're exactly right, Lemon. Hesitance and reticence about moving through that minefield after it got disabled by the EMP was what really destroyed the Shock there. The EMP should have set up the fight, but Infected's ability to mess with San Francisco Shock's execution on their plan was super crucial. Now Boat can try and look for an early pulse one, but again, we've got to deal with that Suzu dynamic, and Max adds another layer of potential messing with that.
Boat was in some trouble, and at least getting some help from this EMP from Pummy, hit a few. Shock lose their speed demon there of Vindime. Around the corner is Boat ready for a pulse bomb as Shock to be crossing over. I expect they're going to check this room. Almost gets a one clip onto Heesang, forces the translocate out as Trick Room want to hunt them down. Infected leads the charge. And Shock are so close to their spawn room doors that I don't think Trick Room want to go any deeper, but Infected is going to live on an off angle as Boat hopes to join him. Kitsune rush from Finn sends Shock forward to see if they can take advantage of the split moment by Trick Room. And at least they find the pick on the Magic 8 Ball to deny that sound barrier and deny all the healing on top of that. No supports remain for Trick Room.
All right, so that's the kind of tactical depth that gives you an idea of the difference between like Krusty coaching and a contender's team. The counterattack there from Finn, they used the Kitsune ult just as they saw Maple and only Maple overextend, knowing, oh, we can get a pick off the back of this. On the other side, Hanbei, the Kitsune rush, was actually used as an engagement with San Francisco Shock not having committed at all, so they can easily disengage.
EMP hits Infected and Pummy. Magic 8 Ball responds with the sound barrier. A Shock just stack on the cart. Now that things have settled a little bit, they go through the bar side to come back around as Infected split them up even more with the mines. He heads back to safety. Shock head to the high ground. Maybe looking for a sound barrier engage if they need it for tempo. Trick Room are just out of ultimates, so it's Shock that really have control of this, and if they can head towards point B, it'll be off of a fight win. And they've hunted down Pummy somehow, didn't have a chance to translocate, maybe hacked, I'm not sure. But maybe Shock not even needing to use ultimates. Boat is forced to use recall. Will have to just drift away as Trick Room are just barely anchoring this cart and stopping its progression. But Shock are lost and losing a lot of time on hunting down these last few targets and not using any ultimates because it's a one fight, it's just a stalled one.
Shock have lost for high ground as well. Quick reposition here from the back line should give him a touch more safety. And now Max can actually control the zone around the cart as well, using the self-destruct. And it might come down to either Pummy having a long contest before a TP out to make sure that the cart doesn't get to the end.
Kitsune rush from the defense. Trick Room was trying to sustain through it. Self-destruct, EMP, and more from the Shock to finish this off. Almost getting the hack on the Boat to stop the blinks, and that'll be all she wrote for the Shock. Max even back in the mech is good too, so no momentum lost.
Yeah, fairly cheap there as well for San Francisco Shock, keeping hold of a self-destruct. I think Max wanted to use it and actually got hacked out of the boosters he was going to use to launch it into the air. Trick Room now, they need to leverage their high grounds in order to get some early poke out, force some resources from Shock, whether that's some of the defense matrix or a couple of blinks from Proper to get into cover before they move in onto a more vulnerable target, in this case probably Vindame. Ideally maybe also you can make Finn use his teleport before the fight.
90 seconds for the Shock. Just trying to see if they can collapse on Infected, but Hammond just has so much health, so much mobility, and Infected is so good at getting in and out. Force out the sound barrier of Vindime. A Shock re-engage in, but just trying to hunt down these kills is quite difficult. At least the sound barrier forced Trick Room back to the end of point C.
Max has got good control over cart here, and good brawling against the Wrecking Ball as well. However, there's a punish. Oh my goodness, they really want to infect him. They force out the Susie. It's going to create an opening for Proper with the pulse. Wait, did Boat just stick Proper?
Wow.
Crazy.
Someone's gonna have to screenshot that and put that on Twitter. You don't do that to the MVP. I've already seen some screenshots of the take your time to. Pretty funny. 45 seconds for the Shock. And they got all the weapons they need in their arsenal to get this done. Just finishing off the kills, and that's one of them. A big pick on the Hanbei. Takes a headshot from Finn. EMP, back and forth. Infected heads back. Magic 8 Ball hacked and trying to be denied and staggered off of the sound barrier as Shock stack the car and see if they can cap before Trick Room can get a good fight going.
I ain't gonna lie, that one was kind of down to Hanbei feeding his brains out, but that's okay. We've come to expect the excellence from Hanbei. You get to mess up now and then. Good re-engagement here with the sound barrier, grabs everybody.
Yeah, Shock's WinCon was definitely trying to take the initiative before Trick Room got set up with the sound barrier Kitsune rush. Max self-destruct makes a bit of space as you need presence on the card. It's overtime for the Shock, and they've lost Heesang. They head towards the back line. Looks like Max is about to get demacked. He got surrounded going in too deep and manages to keep the mech, but just barely. And it will be just proper, keeping the cart stalled out. Sound barrier from Vindime keeps the fight extended for the Shock, but the respawn advantage is so big for Trick Room, and Shock stepped off the cart and they weren't able to cap.
Respawn advantage worked well. Meatball, come on, man. I think you're thinking. Oh, I love Trick Room. A bunch of jokers and goats on this team. Hashtag read the room, I believe they have. And, well, just working well with the respawns here. And good cart contest, the opposite of Shock in this case. I think that it honestly is just a little bit of trolling on their side. Obviously, it's very hard to contest the cart when it's covered in a minefield. But now is the real test of Trick Room, because some might say that defending Hollywood's fairly easy. You get good access to high ground, you've got some excellent angles from your default defensive positions, and attacking it can be a little bit of a nightmare, especially when you have to try and path through multiple angles to even get on top of squishies and take a huge amount of poke while you're doing so. Max seems a little bit indecisive at the moment about what to play, and hey, you know what? We'll figure out the comps on the fly. Sometimes you just need to do that. Is a little bit of lacking of touching the cart. Those mines scary, Lemon.
I think Max maybe thought he was, and Vindime thought Max was, and miscomm there at the end. Where that was a really back and forth fight where Trick Room had the upper hand. They started with the barrier Kitsune rush. Just lack of focus fire. When you see nobody dying for a long time, yeah, you want to give credit to the supports, but it's also a focus fire problem in this game. So just kind of initial Widow swap to get any picks while Shock present themselves at the front, and back to what Trick Room are best at.
Trick Room returning to... I'm concerned about Pummy's angles here, to be honest. Like, getting some poke on the Ramatra is not going to be easy. How do you buy this space for Hanbei and Pummy is the question. Infected's probably going to have to do it. Maybe Boat is going to have to take a huge amount of this space as well. I wouldn't mind seeing Pummy getting double pocketed while Coach gunning up onto the high ground just to try and force San Francisco Shock out of these spam angles.
Yeah, Pummy just putting some poke in, and behind them is Heesang. Must be very, very careful in how he approaches this, but he's got the assistance of Max and the rest of the team. They've confirmed at least the kill on the Hanbei, but backlines are getting traded, and Finn is gone from the equation, and Trick Room have done enough to make this a swift point cap.
I thought the San Francisco Shock might have had that one in hand when Max actually got the drop on the more fragile backline of Trick Room. But still, it came down to a brawl in the bar, and Finn kind of isolated himself by going down into the low ground to pick up the Mega Health Pack, and then no one could really help him there. San Francisco Shock going to have Max swap over onto the Diva. Easier transitions between verticalities with the boosters, and that means that there's a lot more variability in where the peel can occur. Ideally, you want to be shutting down Boat's Pulse Bomb here, but it's going to be fairly telegraphed anyway due to having to go up one of the elevators to actually attach it to a valuable target.
Pummy seems to like playing this low ground, which makes him in sightline of Heesang, but also his own supports. Trick Room can play under these roofs too if they want to avoid anti-grenades like that, because I think if Max would have realized that earlier, he would have wanted to dive onto Pummy to confirm that kill. Amplification Matrix pretty far forward, isn't going to find really any value besides maybe push proper back, who's on this high ground above. Now the Nano onto the Diva to just run down this DPS. Max gets rid of the Immortality, focuses down Magic 8 Ball, but the Suzu from Hanbei saves the backline as Infected re-emerges to peel. And Max heads back before needing to use the self-destruct to get back into Mac.
That Boat was caught on the flank as well by Vindime, and it's super important that your Lucio is able to actually take those doors confidently against a Tracer. Otherwise, it requires a huge amount more attention from Proper, and then Infected stops taking as much damage.
Looks like the high ground is being looked at by Trick Room, as they were hoping maybe Bob was going to push the cart, but that was off target. It gets slept anyway by Finn. Self-destruct, just to get Max back into mech. Above is Proper with a Deadeye too. If Trick Room commit to just an open position, this Deadeye could find a pick, but a little bit tough too with the Suzus. As the first couple of picks from the high ground, they get so Shock can just puppeteer this entire fight. Proper's looking real good on the Cassidy too.
Oh yeah, Proper on the high ground is a threat that can't be ignored, but the thing is, when you're pathing to try and deal with it, that's when the rest of San Francisco Shock can really dig their teeth in. That's where Max and Heesang can start to find stragglers, pick them apart. You kind of hunt like hyenas. You look for the weak one in the pack, and in this case it was Boat who was falling far too low and actually making an engagement that was well out of time with his team. Neither Hanbei nor Maple had any means of actually pocketing Boat on that angle, so a little bit of a timing issue here from Trick Room.
Timing issue, at least not in the time bank. He's still got 3 minutes to get to point B. This Trick Room really got to focus this high ground, not give too much freedom to Proper. Although range on Cassie is still suffer. That's why he starts on that first high ground. He's been nanoed. I wonder if they were worried about this infected dive. You got the Kitsune Rush. That's what you really got to worry about. This Hanbei and Trick Room just commit to warding them Shock off of these buildings. And they have presence on the card, so that's being pushed along. Just making sure that whoever's down there is safe, but Max reemerges, able to get some contest here in Bar. That was the shelter of the Shock, who used the sound barrier to re-engage outwards. As Infected just tosses them around in positions they're not comfortable in, and Finn gets found through the flock. And Trick Room just have to finish off the fight on their terms, especially while Finn is missing. There's just not going to be a ton of heals with just a Lucio. A Shock will just have to depend on killing things faster, and having the high ground sure helps with that.
Oh, Proper knocked off by Infected, and the EMP just catches him with a tail end. Gets rid of a big DPS threat. And now Shock. They are going to be a couple of stragglers who are hitting around, and Boat needs to make sure that he continues to fight Heesang in the zone of control of Hanbei, so that it is at least a somewhat fair. No way, Hanbei gets the 1v2. A cut from Pummy, managing to get the hack is super important, and Max is already demeched.
Just really great stall from Shock that it's, you know, it was about 3 minutes for Trick Room, and they cap with 1 minute left. Now, of course, more time being added on. But the win condition is there, right? The box of victory at the end after Shock's C9, sort of. Trick Room have a chance to send us into map 3.
What an achievement that would be, even if it's not a series win. A map 3 from Trick Room, not even the top seed coming out of North America going up against San Francisco Shock would be huge for them. Boat, oh, he's cooking up a pulse bomb over here, but you need to get the groundwork done to get that Suzu out of the way.
Boat's been discovered. Even Kiriko's kind of a sketchy hero to want to duel against, and he finds somebody. I thought that stuck, but maybe a Suzu came out. It was off screen if it did. Either way, Proper had to drop, and he's around the corner. Kitsune Rush. Trick Room want to collapse on these targets. They've isolated Proper. Great first pick, 5v4. Trick Room don't have any other ultimates, though, besides a Sound Bear. Magic Meatball needs to play his life. Shock have way more tools in their arsenal, too. A self-destruct alone could catch Trick Room off guard without a shield to protect them. They got to play cover, and they have to play smart. With 90 seconds left, too. Trick Room just couldn't do much with that 5v4, needing to head back. It's back to the drawing board as they wait for the Kitsune Rush of Finn.
Shock, there are plenty of resources to try and hold on here in the last minute. 4 ultimates almost ready to go. Boat forced to recall. The same for Heesang, but Finn is the full stop on this duel.
Still waiting for just any ultimates from the Shock, but they know that they have to play time too. There's still a minute left and anything can happen. And they conserve most of that and just play smart, play slow, and play for picks. And it works out for Shock, and it's a very cheap fight.
Hold up, we've got ourselves a little bit of a shenanigan here from Trick Rooms. Doing a heckin' mischief, picking up the Reinhardt, trying to find a brawl on the cart where Shock can't meet them toe-to-toe. The Reinhardt's so much better. The May's going to be able to control anyone who dares to come near. This needs to be a massive pulse bomb from Heesang.
The Deadeye from Pummy just to zone off the high ground, get as much cart push as possible. And Bo gets a random headshot onto Heesang. Wasn't expecting that. Such a small hitbox. Self-destruct from Max. Trick Room are okay for now. Last 14 seconds. It's do or die. Magic Meatball Sound Bearer is warded away and Infected is gone. You don't have a front line, but you do have firepower. And it's Pummy working together with Boat. On the flank there is Shock. Proper goes down. Pummy's gonna screenshot that one too. Max tries to matrix some of the lethality coming from Pummy. and Shock just have to play for respawns. They're much, much closer. As the Blizzard from Boat, he has to sacrifice his life forward. A few more meters to go, and Trick Room have done it. They've taken a map against the Shock.
Not again! Not again! Twice in a set. Damn, man, with 3 people alive as well. Oh, pain! It's quite upsetting, actually.
I could tell in the tone in your voice. Let's look at the highlights, though, because this was close. I mean, the overtime push at the end. And Infected, we got to see the ball and just how much he really did survive and was just a thorn in Shock's side at all times.
Yeah, it just so much annoyance coming through on Shock and just trying to mess with their plans was super important because obviously this is a team that's in the early throes of their season. They're building up their strat book still with the inclusion of so many new players. So often your plans are a little bit more concrete. You're trying to very much follow like a set play to make your engagement happen. It's a little bit less avant-garde that you get from a team that's just kind of felt each other out and they do things instinctively without having to clarify every single decision. You add some annoyance into that, a couple of weird thoughts here, and they're like, oh, where's Pummy? Where's Infected coming from? And suddenly the comms can start to break down a little bit, and the objective can fall through the cracks sometimes. But what I really enjoyed there from Trick Room was the little mischief to come out on the Reinhardt and really force a fight on Cart using things like their Deadeye to give that Cart a little bit of push forward that couldn't be contested, and that forced to have that cycle contest. And when you're cycle contesting for about a minute and a half, eventually something's going to fall through the cracks. Nobody's perfect.
And Shock, not perfect. And, you know, there's all these expectations for them and how they're going to develop these rookies. And this is only start of their journey, as this is only the middle of the series. We'll still have map 3 on the other side of this. Will Shock have better luck this time around on push? We'll find out after this. Going into map 3 push on the menu next, and it'll be Shock's choice of map. Their second time today that they're in a map 3 scenario. Starting off Pro-Am 0-2 would be not on the bingo card, to say the least, although a contender's win would be appreciated by the community too. But Shock can also end this out in style after some kind of uncharacteristic mispositions there on Hollywood.
Yeah, a couple of uncharacteristic plays, and you know what? Trick Room, credits to them, they came out with some surprise punches. They got a couple sucker punches in, but now San Francisco Shock, I believe this pick is enough shenanigans, enough mischief, enough goofiness. We're gonna bring out the proper Sojourn, and you are going to bow to the masters. The question is, what kind of tank line do they play with this, and how does the dynamic evolve here? Max is still in, so I'm somewhat expecting to see maybe the Ramatra in order to just give Proper a little bit more room to work with. But also, how do you create the angles for Proper to try and take advantage of? Because as we saw previously from the Proper Sojourn, San Francisco Shock do have occasionally they make an ego dive, let's put it that way. They're like, we're good enough to just run in there and mechanics this. So why don't we just run in?
Well, at least there's some tape out there about what contenders of Trick Room, Lamau, have run before, and they faced, they went on this map against the Saints in the grand final. They ended up losing, but the composition that they had preferred, and this is their choice of map, or a Shock's choice of map, is that Infected and Friends really liked the May Brawl at the time, but since it didn't go so well, I think it was like 110 meters to 60, Trick Room have to dive deep into their strategy book. And I like the ham and dive much better.
Okay, once again, we're talking about poke here from San Francisco Shock, making sure Trick Room can't make an engagement happen with full HP. That's a win condition, because if you can manage to poke them down, then Max will slow them with the E. And of course, control of the bot here is going to be much easier for Max.
Just an initial pile drive, a Shock take cover in the corridor, as Bo maybe wanted to get in there, up close and personal, just gets rando picked. And you just got to be so careful how you engage into the Shock if they're going to be stacked up like this. Random poke, it's going to get you, as Shock will get some initial push in.
Amazing use of the alcove as well. The right angle that leads into where the mini pack is allows you to easily avoid Infected's engage by utilizing the corner for cover. And this means that Max has a good amount of safety to work with. Oh, that's bad. That's very bad. 3 people just rolled in onto Heesang and took him out. Now your off-angle control is absolutely cooked.
Oh, and Vindime got hunted down by a Lucio of all things. Like, the fact that Magic Maypal is assisting Boat's rotations in there was pretty clean. And Shock didn't know who to focus on. They were getting attacked from all angles. Either way, Shock got 25 meters, and yeah, losing Heesang early, definitely not ideal.
Trick Room now have unlocked a secret though. If they can exploit opportunities of Heesang being out of support LOS, trying to scout for Boat, they can actually spring a very quick 3v1 on him by having a Sombra uncloak and have your Kiriko TP in. And if you can 3v1 Heesang, then you can set up a fantastic fight afterwards with full control of off angles.
Yeah, good Suzu just to make sure Proper's okay during the Infected dive. Mines laid just right near the bot, just to buy some space there, maybe disrupt what Shock are up to, and the hack and the assassination on the Heesang as Trick Room are up in this fight, but they got a bigger problem. It's the annihilation of Max. He has to stay within range of somebody to benefit from it, so that quickly went away.
Yeah, excellent split there from Trick Room, just starting, you know what, no, don't want to deal with this today. 10 HP from Boat, but still Proper dies.
That's a good start for Trick Room. We still have EMP. Pulse Bomb finishes off Vindime. And with this, missing a lot of heals, I think Finn should be able to pull through if he can still stay alive. Just not being the case, not in contact with the rest of his team. So Shock will lose control of the bot as Trick Room want to match the score.
Cars, outdated. Planes, overrated. Long have we waited. The boats have been activated and we're sailing on a sea of some excellent off-angle control here. We keep talking about it because it's just so important. Nice EMP. Good Suzuki gets Proper alive.
And Nano onto Max to just hunt down these mobile heroes of Trick Room that's just having a hard time knowing who to bully and just being in range of somebody. As the counter dive started while Max was searching for targets and Infected pounced on Finn. And I think Vindime is next. He's hacked up, and Pummy is just harassing them. The bot got escorted forward too by the Shock, so despite their backline being in trouble, the front just is trucking along.
They are indeed just trucking along. And Max here might be able to get some good peel. Soon going to run out of the... Oh, what beautiful play. Vindime might save himself.
Yeah, Max, I like the diva, like I've mentioned already on Hollywood, just having so much mobility to chase people down, but locking people down is a whole other scenario. Infected just pile drives the back. Kitsune rush from Finn. Isn't enough firepower to get picks on the Trick Room, though. Shock still looking for anything, and Heesang gets picked yet again, and Proper is next. The coordination from Trick Room's dives is disgusting. They're one of the favorite Hammond teams coming out of contenders, and they're proving us right.
And honestly, they are one of the favorite Hammond teams coming out of the Pro-Am, but where they really shone as well was being able to win in those Reinhardt and Ramasha mirrors. I am so surprised that in a Tracer versus Tracer kind of matchup with the Wrecking Ball that you described them as being so famous for, they're able to keep track of Heesang, a multiple-time Contenders career champion, with flying colors. They get the lead and they simply leave. Now they can set up their own dive onto Proper, forcing out so much. Suzu was used there too.
Oh, you force the position of Proper, you land the EMP after, and Trick Room follow up perfectly with each other. Besides losing Pummy, who just couldn't translocate back, and a self-destruct, I doubt you. Okay, he gets back in the mech, and now you're just giving more ult charge, and Max might be staggering himself even more, not having the range to get back to his staircase, and you hope that Finn is not going to teleport to Max. Just now, Max is able to conserve the mech, so that was gonna be a problem if he didn't. And Trick Room have taken now a sizable lead, and they're looking to get that second checkpoint.
Nice eat there from Max. So we'll at least get rid of one major threat, but still Heesang needs to be accounted for here. Boats all on top of the Sombra, and Magic Mateballs come in as well. The coordination is sublime, Lemon, and now Vindame's gone too.
And Vindime just nanoed Max there, who wasn't able to make a big splash. It's Max just playing cat and mouse, but that mouse is in nitro mode. He just cannot catch up to anything that Trick Room. Mega Mouse. Now there's the Kitsune rushes from both sides. Bridge control given up. Back to the cart we go. Trick Room are only down by one, and now no supports at all. Proper is on the hero we know and love. And man, does he look good on it. And at the moment, they needed to the most, especially because Trick Room with almost the checkpoint and 60 meters plus, that was going to start getting out of hand.
It was incredibly important, exactly, Lemon, to deny that forward spawn in particular. Trick Room, they have to wait for Boat to respawn before they can effectively stage a dive. The rest of this is going to be about what we saw on Proper earlier, getting rid of the positions where Proper wants to play and trying to lay some groundwork for the dives, just like this.
EMP. Shock seem okay for now, though, as Pummy has to translocate out. Meanwhile, Heesang is dealing with Infected. Looks like Pummy's in a duel. Just everyone from Trick Room is taking trickle damage, and Shock just can't get any finishing blows, but they are getting progress. They've lost, Trick Room have lost Boat as Shock head for the bridge to see if they can access Magic Mateball to remove his ability to use the sound barrier, as Trick Room are now getting staggered, and they're at the back of their spawn room doors, and Shock are pretty close to tying things up.
Yeah, we're seeing slight panics here from Trick Room at the moment. Nice EMP to try and secure the lead, and I think it's going to work out.
For now, though, the Magic Mateball uses sound barriers, so Trick Room seem healthy. They got presence on the cart. Max is about to get DMAC too. Actually conserves it, uses the self-destruct. And he's able to randomly catch Boat too. Just did not see that coming. Might have thought the bomb was going to go on top of the bridge. And officially, Shock have taken the lead.
Sky High bomb right there, yeah. Gets a fast one on Boat, who never saw it coming down from the sky. San Francisco Shock, every meter after this is a bonus. A quick engagement's in their interest.
Sound wave from Vindime wasn't enough to save Max, but isn't enough for Shock to get the trading blows. Proper is doing his best to hunt down Hanbei, who teleports to Infected, and Proper still breaks all of their ankles and removes both supports, I believe. But it's not enough. Trick Room still have 3 alive, but Shock have the lead, so it's fine.
Lag, says Hanbei. What do the LA Gladiators have to do with this series, huh? The Kitsune Rush from Finn here is going to be super important. I want to see it used in response to a fully committed dive from Trick Room where they cannot disengage. Force them to fight in the Kitsune Rush because that's where Max is going to have the advantage due to the immense rate of fire of the D.Va.
Oh, EMP from Pummy. Shock just fall apart, but might be okay just giving up this fight as long as Trick Room use ultimates to do so you have less problems in the future. As Trick Room advance with 1:08 left, they have a chance to take back the lead. I think this is going to be a question of meters of how this map 3 in this best of 3 is going to end.
Uncomfortably close in Trick Room versus Shock right now. Hisang still can put this to bed with a well-placed EMP. Ideally, you want to force out the Suzu beforehand like we saw, and there's a good TP.
There's the TP. Kitsune Rush from Hanbei. This is a big fight for Trick Room. They can't afford to lose this. But an EMP from Hisang came late. And Bode is doing his best to match what Proper has been able to do thus far. And the synergy of Trick Room is what really paid off at the end. And they pushed through to the checkpoint. They're 0.2 meters away from taking the lead. And the Riz Academy boys of Trick Room, yes, that was their former team's name. I'm not just complimenting them. They've now officially taken the lead with 12 seconds left. Gets the MVPs of the Shock. And yeah, the supports of Trick Room under a lot of fire, but Shock have to fight their way all the way back to scoop this past. And at least Shock will give themselves a chance. It is overtime though, and they got a few more fights to go.
Enough games, yeah, 2 fights in a row I think here with Trick Room all getting forward spawns. So this first one is going to be a pretty quick engage. What you want to do is try and force San Francisco Shock to use as many ults as possible to win this fight out. But at the same time, you're risking Hisang getting access to that EMP. So Pummy is going to have to be the one to make a judgment call. He's going to get EMP first, but do you invest in this fight?
This is the fight to win or lose them all. Sound Barrier from Magic Mate Ball. Bode is hacked. And Vindime's barrier doesn't get pulled off. The self-destruct Max is able to get back into mech, but there's no supports to help him. The Shock have been decimated. Trick Room pull off an upset of a lifetime, and the first contenders win on broadcast and in the Pro-Am happens against one of the best teams. What a map 3 by Trick Room.
The first contenders team that we saw, and they've defeated the San Francisco Shock. You called them Riz Academy. When we over here, I'm going to call them Riz Graduates because maybe I'm swooning. Absolutely beautiful play. The Ajax on Vindime as well, killing him during that sand barrier. Mateball forced it out. It was such a good calculation from Trick Room. If we force this in using the barrier, they know that they can't disengage from the bot. So what they have to do is they have to stay there, and they have to stay there by using their own sand barrier. So they pre-aim Vindame and take him out during the cast. Absolutely sublime.
Wow, I know Twitter's gonna be on fire today. Everyone's been cheering for the underdogs of Trick Room, it feels like, because, you know, when you're just on top for so long, it feels like everyone was cheering against the Shock at that moment. A lot of fans had high expectations for them, and to start the day off 0-2 is insane. And you could maybe blame Bad Pachibari for something prediction. Maybe he cursed it. It's the only thing that can explain this, right? But a big congratulations to Trick Room. Like I said at the start of the series, it was about how no one had big expectations for them, even coming into the Pro-Am qualifiers. And they were runner-ups behind the Saints. And now with this win over Shock, they have the potential to make it out of this group.
They definitely have a potential to make it out of this group, and Shock's potential to make it out of this group themselves is heavily in question. The best that they can do right now is going to be a 2-2, and who knows if that's going to be enough in such a stacked group.
Well, jump in who? Because your player of the match is one of the most hyped up Hammonds coming into the Pro-Am. Your player of the match is Infected, where it started off with a lot of Reinhardt, and man, he suffered a bit on Antarctica, not gonna lie, but they found some success on sub-level as one of the easier brawl maps to go, and he truly shined when they went to their map pick of Hollywood, I believe, and dominated the high ground. His survivability was unmatched, and the way that they coordinated around him. We said Riz Academy because a lot of these players came from that team and have been together for a while, and you saw the coordination behind Infected, the most scuffed picture I could find on Google, guys. But his presence was known on the field, and I was a big fan of his play.
Big 240p chat. In fact, he's also one of the youngest players that we have in Contenders as well. I think he's 15, 16, maybe 17. It's been a while since we've cast Infected, but he's been playing essentially since he was a fetus. I think that he was practically a zygote when we first cast him, Lemon, all those years ago. And, well, he has matured super well. However, the analytical takes on this series maybe haven't matured as well, and we're going to have our desk's take on it after a break.
Welcome back to Game Break. Wow. Yeah, what can we say? I think it's a great day of Overwatch so far. This has got to be so very exciting, not just for the team, but also for everyone watching, because heading into the Pro-Am, I think there were a lot of loud voices out there who just said that, you know, Contenders teams are not going to stand a chance against some of those out teams, and certainly San Francisco Shock, such a huge franchise, although they are coming into this with quite a rookie roster. We didn't expect them to go down like this. Not the best first day from them, but let's break it down. How did Trick Room get it done?
Well, honestly, I think they just played better. Like, you can make as many excuses, and people are on the internet. They're gonna make as many excuses of ping, all that type of stuff. Yeah, it's all a factor, but at the end of the day, Trick Room were the better team. They had a great coordination, infected on that wrecking ball, creating so much space. I think everyone did a great job doing their role on Trick Room, and they absolutely deserved this win. Even on, you know, on the Antarctic map, they were competitive. They went back and forth. You can't take this away from these guys, and I hope they're super excited because I'm sure this means a lot to them as players.
Absolutely. Hey, Danny, we can't hear you, but I can guess what you're saying. Okay, I'm gonna guess what he did say was proper played good. Is that what you wanted to say, Danny?
That's what I heard.
It feels like that's what
not
I
proper
read.
being good. It's actually the opposite. I'm gonna go really quick. It's just, you know, they played 2 games today and they lost both of them, and which they honestly, just if you're looking at them on paper, they shouldn't have lost. And you know, I'm just a little bit worried going forward. They are going to be playing more games, and if this continues, you know, things are not looking good for the San Francisco Shock team.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to see. Go ahead,
if you
Scott.
wouldn't like,
please follow up.
I would like to follow up because it's kind of interesting the look that we got from the San Francisco Shock. You take ping out of the equation and mechanics and all that kind of stuff. It's very interesting to see Max play this entire series. In a situation in which they were losing to the Wrecking Ball, we could have seen that mirror. Like, it made sense when he came in to play the Ramatra on the first map. But as the series went on, I'm surprised that they stuck with it. They didn't seem to have any clear-cut idea of how they wanted to play this match. You know, Hollywood, they spent an entire minute at the beginning of their attack going back and forth, deciding what they wanted to use to counter. So, honestly, to me, it just felt like Shock weren't prepared for what Trick Room would bring, or weren't prepared to know what they wanted to play.
Yeah, I think Junbin, I mean, yeah, I don't see a real reason for not playing him and having Max in the mix there, but I'm sure they will have their reasons. They will just remain a mystery to us as we don't get to talk to them. But for now, let's take a look at some Pommy highlights. One of the DPS players from that squad. Who impressed you the most on this team?
It could be anyone.
I mean, for
Pommy
me, it
had a
was,
great
of course,
match,
Pommy.
especially on the summer.
Yeah. And Infected. And I like Boat. I think Boat's a great name.
It sounded like everyone. Well, we do have Pommy joining us now. So first and foremost, Pommy, congrats to you and your team. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us. I'm really excited to be here, and you know, what a crazy match.
Crazy indeed. Well, walk us through what the comms were like. That winning moment against the San Francisco Shock, that must have been bonkers.
Yeah, you know, push goes really fast, and I think that was like one of the shorter push maps. Like both teams just got over the capping point, so you get so involved in going back and forth, and before you know it, there's 2 minutes left, and then before you know it, you're on last fight, and we're calling things really fast and trying to stay focused, but it's really hard, and I'm happy we were able to stick together and pull out the win.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up with a question.
It was so fun to you guys. Yeah.
I want to follow you up on it because what was your expectation heading into this match? Obviously, San Francisco Shock, runner-ups last year, they have great players. You know, even though they're rookies, they have great players. Was your expectations you had that confidence to win, or was it just as the match went on, you started to believe a little bit more?
No, we all knew we could win. We know we saw the match before when the San Francisco played. We knew some of the stuff they were going to show, but they bested us on the rush, so we decided to take it to like more the Sombra Tracer dive. But we had full confidence, you know. We've been practicing really hard like the last 4 months, so I'm glad to see it all pay off.
Yeah. And honestly, just watching this match for me, I think you guys are a very like fun team to watch, and I think it was Hollywood where I saw you guys poking fun at the San Francisco Shock as well. So I just want to ask you, like, what makes Trick Room, and like what makes you guys unique compared to any other teams?
I think it's most important to have fun with it. You know, we came in, we're like, let's just have fun, you know, and we're a group of guys who love being together. We've been working really hard. Even in the qualifiers, like people didn't even expect us to qualify, let alone get second in that, and then now upset the Shock. What a crazy sentence that is, right? So
what a great story that is. We can't wait to see more from you. I do want to give you the last words, though. Anything you want to say to your fans and the people supporting your team?
Yeah, thank you so much to everybody who's watching us and supporting us. Some of my friends at home, the people online. And people call me the Somber of St. Louis, but I think it's time to call me the Somber of the world.
True. Pictures.
Yeah, we
Let's
love
go.
it. Pommy, thank you so much. Best of luck in your next few games. Can't wait to see more from you and the squad. What a great upset. What a fantastic game. What a well-deserved victory that was. I hope to see more of that because, quite frankly, we do have another one coming your way. Another contenders team will face off against one of our OWL teams. So let's break that down very quickly. Timeless, they placed 4th in the NA qualifiers, and they will be facing off against the Vancouver Titans. Doable?
Wait, I believe in anything at this point. Everything I had coming into this tournament is out the window. If Trick Room can beat the San Francisco Shock and they can look that good doing it, I believe Timeless can take down the Vancouver Titans. Anyone can beat anyone, and that's what's going to be exciting about this Pro-Am. Even for Trick Room, job's not done. You got to keep winning more matches. You got to make it out of groups, and then you got to beat everyone else as well. So. We're talking about Timeless, though. This is an interesting team. This is, as you said, Zoe, coming 4th in the contenders region. They have a couple of names you should be able to recognize. Wub, obviously, was with the Paris Eternal last year, but a lot of these guys have been around the scene for a really long time. Big shout-outs to Kuffa, my Australian brethren. So I'm excited to see how these guys can do against the caliber of the Vancouver Titans.
Yeah, let's actually take a look at the Vancouver Titans squad. Yeah,
I
Danny,
honestly
walk
think
us through.
it's doable. I think this is gonna be a close match. I mean, we're seeing a lot of familiar faces from Vancouver Titans as well. Punk, who was on the Boston Uprising, and he was really good. He's on the Vancouver Titans now, alongside with Crimzo and Faith and everyone else, as well as Spire, as well as returning to the Vancouver Titans. I think this is gonna be a really good match. I think it's gonna be close. What do you guys think?
Oh, I hope it's going to be close. And I'm super excited to see Sugar Free here as well in the mix and how he's going to match with the rest of his team. As we talked about in the pre-show, Sugar Free was one of those youngsters who people had an eye on for like forever. I feel like we saw him growing up essentially. Like he was a baby when he started Overwatch, right? So it's, yeah, it's gonna be so exciting. I love that